In today's video we're going to be making this cheap DIY fogger for your greenhouse with its own fixed water supply. Make sure you stick around. Guys, welcome back to Green Thumb's Garden and another video. My name's Alex, and if you love gardening, horticulture, ornamental plant care and DIY, then make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the bell notification so you don't miss a single thing. So for this build you're going to need a sturdy plastic box, you'll need an ultrasonic misting module. Mine's 24 volt. Whatever voltage you get, make sure that everything else you get is on the same voltage. You'll need a fan, which will be our input fan. This will blow out all that mist out of our exhaust vent. Make sure that it's on the same voltage as your misting module. So this is 24 volts. And you're going to need a power supply that's going to take the electricity from your house right down to the voltage that you're going to be running on your little modules, which will be 24 volts. So you need a 24 volt power supply with at least 1 amp. Also, you're going to need a little bit of tubing, which is going to act as our exhaust vent and push out that mist into your desired location. This is not a piece of tube, we ain't got any tubing, so I'm going to fashion this little bottle into a tubercular form. Also optional is a float valve. I'll be adding a float valve to my fogger or humidifier so that when the water level drops, it'll keep that water level nice and sweet. It's an optional item. Did I mention it's optional? Optional! So that's our materials covered. Here's some of the tools you're going to need. So you're going to need a glue gun. You're going to need a drill. You could make this without a drill and use a Stanley knife if you don't want to fork out the money to buy a drill. It might be a little bit more dangerous with a Stanley knife. You could easily go too far and split your plastic. So I recommend using a drill if you've got one. If you've got plenty of money, and you could just go out and buy a drill, or you could just buy like an already built fogger if you're loaded. But most loaded people are dead tight, so you're probably a millionaire watching how you can save 50 bucks and make a fogger yourself. You know what they're like. You're going to want some electrical tape, and optional some little cable ties so you can make it look all nice and fancy and tidy at the end. You want a black marker pen so we can mark up where our cuts are going to be, and you want a nice piece of scrap wood. This is what we're going to be using when we drill into our plastic to ensure we don't crack it. So let's get right into this build. Okay, so let's first start with getting our fan on. We'll make a mark where our hole needs to be, about there. And we've selected the right size. That should be just sweet. It'll give us enough just to put a blob of glue on our corners. So we're going to use a bit of scrap wood when we cut our hole into this box. Push your plastic right onto the scrap wood, and that should stop it from cracking. So make sure you're holding your scrap wood nice and tight. That's looking alright, isn't it? So we've made a very nice, beautiful bit of craftsmanship there. So your fan always blows out from the part with the inner frame in it. So it's going to be sucking in from this side. So we want to make sure that we stick our fan down now with the frame facing to the bottom, because it's going to be pumping air into this box. So let's put some glue on our corners. Glue guns are fantastic. Let's stick this down. And if we want, we could just put an additional bit of glue around, just to strengthen it up a little bit. So we're just going to cut our bottle to make our tube. Get your marker pen and let's draw a line so we can get it at least a little bit straight. And we're just going to level it off with a Stanley knife. So that's our bottom piece that we've managed to make as smooth as we can. We're going to have it like this. So we're just going to cut in our exhaust hole at the top now, where our mist is going to come out. So now we've got our little exhaust vent made, let's cut another hole. So we want our block of wood again, so we can use the hole we made before as a template, so we know we need to be cutting about where that black dot is. So now we've got that marked up, we'll switch this around because we want a nice hard surface under there, and the other one's already got a hole. And putting down plenty of pressure so your plastic's really tightly buttered up against that scrap bit of wood. Now we can try and cut our hole. Remember not to cut your fingers, and if you do, I'm not liable. Excellent. Another perfect hole. When you're drilling, don't force it, let your drill do the work. If you try and force it too quick, you'll maybe have an accident or snap your plastic. So that's that done. Now we're just going to glue gun our exhaust vent in. And I'm going to put the exhaust vent at a slight angle because our fog is going to be sat on the shelf and I want it to be dishing out the fog at an angle like that. So let's glue gun this into position. That's just going to stick it into position while we weld it together with our glue gun. Excellent, so we've got our fan and our exhaust connected. We can take out these little bits of plastic. Now that helped to keep it in position while we glued it into place. Now we need to make a hole for our ultrasonic misting module. So we're going to have our misting module as far to that side as possible, right over there, just under where the exhaust pipe is, because as it does its ultrasonic stuff, it's going to be knocking little droplets up into the air, so we don't want it under our fan. We want to keep our fan away from them little droplets of water. So we're going to knock that right to one end, and we need to make a little hole to put our plug in. So we want it as hole above water level. Comes with a nice little rubber plug which should be watertight, but there's no point in trying to test that out anyway. If we can have it above water level, we might as well have it above water level. So we're going to make a little hole for this wire to come out of the side here. So take a drill bit to make that hole. This is size 16. It'll just be enough, I reckon, just to get the plug in nice and snugly bugly. So we're going to do our same little trick again using a piece of wood so that we don't crack the plastic. We're just going to butt it up against the table like that. And remember, let your drill do the work. We don't want to be forcing it. Slowly, slowly. Watch your fingers. There we are. Lovely jubbly. Let's get our module in there. Push the wires through. Oh, look at that. Oh, isn't that nice and tidy? I just love it when a good plan comes together. So we're going to fit in our float valve. The float valve is going to keep our level just sweet. If you look at the module, you see it's got a little sensor here at the top. As soon as the water gets below this sensor, it's going to cut out. And when I tested it, it gets through the water quite quick, and it'll cut out quite often, unless you want to be there all the time with a bottle of water topping it up. But if you don't, and you want it to just keep working reliably without your intervention all the time, you want to add a little float valve on, and then you can have that feeding into your mains or a big tank of water. I'm going to be using a 10-litre tank of water to feed it. In the future I might try and plug it into the mains, but I might have to knock down the pressure before I do that. So let's get this attached. We're going to be using the same little hole maker we just made, and then we'll fit it in. So we need to first try and work out where our hole needs to be. Our mister's going to sit about there, and that's about the sensor where it cuts off. We want for optimal use it to just the water level to be maybe 5, 6, 7 millimeter higher than our sensor. So we want our float valve to cut off here. So we want to work out where our float valve wants to be. Obviously that's when it's going to be turned off. So we want it to be turned off when it's hitting that mark. You don't need to worry too much about the accuracy. It's just to give an idea where you want to position it. They do have an adjustment on them where you can adjust it up and down depending on where you want it. So if you find it's not cutting in enough, you can adjust it in the future. We're going to push our valve right to the side. I don't want it too close to the module. We're going to keep it right at the side of our box. So we're going to make our hole about here. So let's just mark that down. Like that. And then we'll cut our hole, making sure the plastic's nice and buttered up. Oh, I'm confused now, Ruben. Okay. just to tighten it a little bit, but not too much. We don't want to snap the plastic. It needs to be just a few levels up. Oh. So we're going to plumb this up now to our water feed. I'm using a bit of reverse osmosis cable, and I've got these little reverse osmosis connectors as well. So we're going to stick one of these little connectors to the bottom of this 10 litre container. We can fill up this 10 litre container then, and that will then feed into our fogger and keep it always with enough water. So we need to make a hole in our canister, and we've got our big drill bit. Oh. That's it. That's really tight. That's really snuggly buggly. We're going to put a little tap in between our feed so that we can disconnect it and go and fill up our tank if we need to. So we'll connect that now to our tank, and they just push in. You normally get little brackets that keep it from slipping out, but they never, when you buy the bits, they never give you the brackets, but it should be fine. And then we'll attach this end to our water feed. So let's go and fill this container up now and test if our water regulator is working. So we've got our water tank filled up. Now we're going to open it up and see how our little float valve is working. So you can see we've got our water flow coming out. It's only a little dribble, but that's perfect. We don't want massive jets of water coming through, which is going to be causing loads of turbulence. It only needs to correct the level by a few millimetres to keep the ultrasonic mister working at optimal levels. So let's see if the levels are right. We can make a few adjustments, and then we're going to finish off connecting our power to the power pack, and then we'll give it its maiden run. So we're going to put a cable tie here to tie our fan and our mister together. Keep them cables nice and tight together. So we want to cut these cables the same length. Just be careful when you're taking off the plastic cover that you don't go all the way through to the other side. And then just give it really tiny little snip to take off the cover and expose the copper wires underneath, like that. So we're going to connect our power supply to the wall. This is the plug that's going to go to the wall. Obviously there's no power in it yet, because that would be highly stupid. This is the dangerous part of the job. If you get a normal power supply that's already got a plug on it, like you see in the photograph, then you don't need to worry about this step, and it's much safer. So I'll just unscrew this a little bit. So we're going to connect our blue cable, which is neutral, into the neutral part. So that's connected now. We've got our blue, the neutral, and our brown, the live, where it needs to be. So we've worked out that green is negative, so the two negative cables will go together from our fan and our mister, and the two positive cables all go together. So let's just twist them together and twist these ones together. If you're unsure which is your positive and negative, you can try and test it first or look in your manual. So now we're on to the output side of our power supply. We're going to put the negative in where it tells you to put the negative, and the positive in the part where it tells you to put the positive. Okay, so that's that done. Now we're ready. So we're ready to plug this in and give it its first test run. That's kicking out quite a bit of fog just for one ultrasonic mist module. So there we've got our greenhouse fogger. If you want to know how you can now connect that up to a humidity switch, well, that's what we're going to be doing in the next video. We're going to be connecting into the circuit this humidity switch so that when our humidity reaches a certain level, like 59%, it'll activate the fogger and pump it right back up to about 80-85% and keep our greenhouse in that humidity sweet spot for our vanilla orchids and the panthes. So make sure you stay tuned for that. That video will have popped up right now on your screen if you're watching from the future, and I've already made it. Guys, thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe and like this video. Share it with your friends who might find this video interesting. That helps the channel out massively. I'll see you next time.